When you were a kid, did you ever acquire one of those really potent sense memories that stuck with you the rest of your life? Well, Ernest H. Wright said that he got one of those memories when he was 15 years old. This Kansas City druggist recalled working in a print shop when he was a boy. Sometime in the late 19th century, he looked up in the print shop and he saw a bead of brown liquid trickling down the stovepipe. One imagines that he swiped that liquid and then smells like smoke, and then emboldened perhaps he tasted it and tastes like tart smoke. Wright concluded that smoke from the wood stove must have condensed against the relatively cool metal. Water vapor from the wood condensed and trapped lots of the other components of smoke. And Wright was far from the first human to notice this. For centuries, people called this wood vinegar. And indeed, the hemicellulose in wood breaks down upon heating into acetic acid, literally vinegar, via a very different route than letting your wine go sour. I mean, yeah, if you look at this particular brand of liquid smoke, they do add some vinegar. The pH is about 3, which is like orange juice, maybe. But here's some liquid smoke that I made myself. I did not pour any vinegar in here, yet its pH is about 4, which is still pretty acidic. I'll show you how I made this in a minute, but long before E.H. Wright thought to market this as condensed smoke for food, it was already known to science as pyroligneous acid. And pyroligneous acid is an umbrella term for a brown condensate containing dozens and dozens of water-soluble compounds. Acetic acid, sure, but also phenols, which maybe give you some of the burnt notes in smoke. Aldehydes and ketones maybe give you some of the grassy or grain-like notes of smoke. Furans and pyrons give you the roasty notes thanks to the Maillard reaction. That's what's in the brown juice that condenses from the smoke of a barely smoldering wood fire. With a big roaring fire, lots of heat, lots of oxygen, you're going to break down a lot of these compounds that we really value in this context. Pretty much all that comes off of a roaring fire is carbon dioxide and water, and if you kind of trace things. We don't want to do that. We just want to hold it at just the high enough temperature to drive off a lot of these desirable components. We do the same thing when we smoke food over a fire. We don't want the wood to burn too much. We just want to gently vaporize all those compounds that help to preserve food and make it taste like a campfire. So is the stuff in a bottle like this really liquidized smoke, or is it pyroligneous acid? Is there a difference? Well, the U.S. Department of Agriculture thought so in 1913 when they sued E.H. Wright Company for allegedly misbranding their product. And in the 100 years since, people have never stopped being suspicious about liquid smoke, despite it being a product that I think is well worth your money. But lots of other things are not worth my money, such as old subscriptions that I'm not using anymore. Do I have any of those? Let's check with Rocket Money, sponsor of this video. Try it free with my link or QR code. All I did was download Rocket Money's all-in-one finance app. I linked it to my bank accounts, and here are all of the regular subscription payments that I have coming up. And how do I have a monthly car wash subscription? I like that car wash, but I just think I hit the wrong button one day when I went through. I hit buy a subscription instead of buy a wash. The best thing is I don't have to figure out how to cancel this. Rocket Money will cancel it for me if I want. And it has so many other features to help me build my savings, monitor my credit score, lower bills. I'm quite financially stable now thanks to your viewership, but even I have a lot of anxiety about logging in and checking all of my accounts as frequently as I should. Rocket Money puts everything I need to see in one place that's really kind of friendly and approachable and not scary. It's trusted by 3.4 million users and counting. Try Rocket Money for free and unlock more features with premium at rocketmoney.com/Adam Ragusea, or click that link in the video description or snap that QR code. Thank you, Rocket Money. Anyway, in 1913, the US federal government sued E.H. Wright basically for false advertising. Here's a roughly contemporaneous ad for Wright's condensed smoke. That lady on the left is not holding her nose as she ducks into some stinky smokehouse. No! Instead, she is elegantly painting a bottle of Wright's onto her salt-cured hog's leg to yield a smoked ham. By applying 2 coats, it will be thoroughly smoked, will have a delicious flavor, and will keep solid and sweet and free from insects through the entire summer. That's probably basically accurate, by the way. The phenols in smoke function as antioxidants. They stop the meat from going rancid. And there's lots of other stuff in smoke that is antimicrobial. Pretty good preservative smoke is, as long as you use it in combination with another method like salt or drying. And whether you deliver those compounds with gaseous smoke or liquid smoke, it's kind of all the same, right? But this isn't actually liquid smoke, the government prosecutor argued 100 years ago. He said, no, this is really just crude pyroligneous acid, a substance already on the market then for industrial purposes. The prosecutor said E.H. Wright doesn't really make his product via the incomplete combustion of wood. I mean, he definitely did originally. Wright says that he made his first batch of liquid smoke basically the way that I did. I've got a bag of hardwood chips I'm soaking in water, as we frequently do before smoking barbecue. The water absorbs lots of energy and keeps the fire from burning too hot or too fast. Plus, for my purposes, the water will make extra steam to trap all of those organic compounds in smoke. Into a disposable roasting tray with all of that, and I will seal it tightly with foil. Any escaped smoke is wasted smoke. Onto an electric griddle I've brought outside, punch a hole to channel out the smoke, and I'll need a corresponding hole on my second tray. Those line up. On top, I'll lay my metal bowl to catch the smoke, and to make it condense, I'll put a bag of ice on top. Real quick, you can see steam condensing onto the underside of the bowl and running down into my catch tray. But also real quick, it becomes apparent that griddle isn't hot enough, so we'll try my gas grill. And it occurred to me there's a reason people usually do this with a bunt pan for a catch pan. This will hold way more condensate than my flat catch pan, and the bowl fits right on top, no wasted smoke. The plastic bag keeps falling off and melting on the bars, so I switched to a wet towel on the bowl to keep it cool. And within an hour, I'd accumulated all of that. I could have gotten way more from that much wood if I'd kept going. And it tastes smoky, a little tart, warm somehow, kind of oily, but just very intensely of smoke, which is a very familiar flavor. So this is basically how E.H. Wright made liquid smoke originally, but eventually he figured out that he could make it more efficiently if he used something like this, a destructive distillation setup used by fossil fuel refiners. Imagine this says wood instead of coal, and this is probably something like Wright's improved process. You heat the wood in a low oxygen environment, and then you send it through some long condensing tubes that are cooled on the outside by water. Undesirable stuff like tar will settle out of the solution, and you can collect only those fractions you do want. So that prosecutor 100 years ago said, aha, you're marketing this as condensed smoke, but that's not really what it is. You're not actually smoldering wood, you are destructively distilling it. And the obvious counter-argument to that is, aren't those just two different ways of doing the exact same thing? I mean, this is a crude distillation setup. Some people might say that the industrial process is done in a low oxygen environment, but that's what I've created by sealing off my wood chips. Plus, millennia-old technology for making charcoal involves smoldering wood away from air, resulting in charcoal plus tar and smoke as byproducts. The smoke you can condense if you want, and charcoal makers did and do condense the smoke for all kinds of applications. So the judge in the case ruled summarily against the government and in favor of E.H. Wright. Judge Valkenburg's opinion here is actually pretty hilarious. He basically says, why in God's name is the government bothering to prosecute this case? This stuff is literally what it says it is. It's literally liquid smoke, inasmuch as anything like liquid smoke actually exists. Whether you collect it from a smoldering fire or from an industrial distiller, it's the same chemical products. Actually, the industrially distilled version might be chemically superior because when you condense the smoke down to a liquid, you can filter out the stuff that you don't want. You can filter out the tars and the soot, and you can control the process in other ways by controlling the heat and stuff to make sure that you minimize the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. Those are the components in smoke that give you cancer. There are studies you can look up where scientists compared the carcinogen levels in traditionally smoked foods against the foods that were treated with liquid smoke, and the carcinogens carcinogens in real smoked foods are off the charts by comparison, especially in foods like fatty fish, nasty tars and such, and smoke seem to stick to fats. When you liquidize smoke, you can filter out most of the bad stuff, though I do wish that the producers would be a little bit more explicit about what kind of filtering they do. You would think they could make that a selling point, right? Like, oh, our product only has 5% of the bad chemicals that the other guy's less refined brand has. But alas, US versus Wright was not the final controversy to befall liquid smoke. To this day, commercial food producers use liquid smoke instead of normal smoke all the time, and purists insist that's not real smoked food. And I'm like, are you sure it's not? I mean, I put a bunch of liquid smoke into the brine for these chicken leg quarters, and then I cooked them wet and sealed in a low oven for a few hours until soft. Then I uncovered and I painted on some barbecue sauce, and I turned the heat up and I kept basting until I was happy, and that sure tastes like barbecued chicken to me. This seems like a different and much easier path to very nearly the same exact destination. I bet that if I worked on that recipe some more and kind of replicated the heating environment of a hot smoker, I could produce some liquid smoke barbecue that would fool a blindfolded purist. And of course, depending on how they made it, there's a lot of reason to think that liquid smoke is far less bad for you than normal food smoking. So that's reason enough for everyone to stop turning up their noses at this glorious elixir. It is liquid smoke.